Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of April 11th, 2023. And it is 6 p.m. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes, draft minutes of the March 28th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting.
I move approval.
Approval made by Alder Wheeler. Discussion from the committee? Hearing none. Those in favor of the draft minutes of the March 28, 2023 Finance Committee meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving on to public appearances, non-agenda items. We have no one registered online or in chambers. Thank you very much, Scott. Moving on to item 4, the Finance Director Report, Treasurer's Report as of January 31st, 2023. Misty Dodge, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the January report is in there. Generally for January, we only include those first few reports, but because we are past audit at this point, I included the whole report like you would normally get. At this point in January, there's been a lot of tax collections. So you can see there's $27 million sitting in our account as of the end of the year. That's the money that we would have collected during January that I then settled in February. So it's a relatively short-term high balance because of the timing of that. So I'll pause here if you don't mind before I talk about the rest of my report.
No questions, I guess.
Only have a couple other things to mention to you. One, with the electric vehicles that are coming on, the maintenance facility is working on getting their charger. So there's actually some hope that we should get those vehicles in the relatively near future. So that was good. CIP is what we're working on now. All of those requests were submitted by departments the last couple of days. So now we're working through that schedule as was adopted by council. And then our accountant position, the new one, remember Robert was promoted into that position. We are now backfilling his old role. We're having interviews for that on Thursday and are hopeful for a good candidate. That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Is there further questions, or are there any questions from the committee? All right. Hearing none, we will move on to item 5, review of bills. 5A, detailed review of checks for $10,000 and above for the period of March 16th through the 31st, 2023, totaling $2,865,302.23. Questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, Alder Gerhardt.
Thanks. So just for public, I mean, I know I ask this every year, but in terms of the PAYGO statements, all the different PAYGO, can you talk a little bit about that since people might be curious why we're paying different developers in the area?
Absolutely. Yeah. So under the majority of our development agreements, there are 2 times where we will pay out TID incentives, in April 1st and then October 1st. So the ones you're seeing now are those April 1st payments. We generally make an interest and a principal payment with this payment and just interest only in October. So what these are agreements that we had with developers as part of the TID process, whereby if they pay in the taxes and build what they said they would build and meet all of the other requirements of the developer's agreement, we will reimburse them a portion of those property taxes that they paid in. I'm actually glad you brought that up. There were 7 of them that we paid, 5 of which actually had to be reduced. So the benefit of the PAYGO structure is instead of, the city just putting in the road, right? We just pay for the thing up front and then it's our risk if they don't build it. Under the PAYGO structure, the developments or the buildings have to be built and have to be taxed at the level we thought they were going to be before there's enough money to make that incentive payment. So 5 of those did have to be reduced. 3 of them because the value wasn't what we expected at the time, and all of them because the tax rate was so much lower with the different TID closures that we're having right now. So they were reduced. For the most part, we still suspect that they will be paid out in full through the term of it, but we do look at that before we make each payment and make sure that they've met kind of their financial side of the deal before we make these.
Further questions, comments? Hearing none, moving on to the next item, 5B, detailed review of all checks issued, checks 124973 through 125036 for the period of March 16th through the 31st, 2023, totaling $2,953,061.07. Questions from the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, 5C. Detailed review of all ACH payments for the period of March 1st to the 31st, 2023, totaling $577,261.52. Questions or comments? Hearing none. Moving on to 5D, detailed review of all ACH payments for $10,000 and above for the period of March 1st to the 31st, 2023, totaling $559,637. Let me start over. $559,637.18. Questions from the committee? All right. All right, that completes the review of bills. Moving on to action items, which is number 6, 6A. Do I have a motion to move ordinance 2023-0-07, amending appointed officers, ordinances, Chapter 8, Article 4, Section 8 through 10, 8 through 106, and 8 through 113 of Fitchburg General Code of Ordinances?
I move approval.
All right, motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. And Misty, you will speak to this item?
Yes, please. So under the state statutes, there are two positions that are designated, the city comptroller and the city treasurer. The city's ordinances then say which position within the city is assigned those statutory duties. So right now, the city administrator is assigned the comptroller duties, and the finance director is assigned the treasurer duties. When the accountant was approved as part of the 2023 budget, we also envisioned a change in those assignments. So the city comptroller, their primary responsibility is making sure that things are within budget and signing contracts, which really falls nicely within the finance director role. And the city treasurer is responsible with making sure that all the money that comes in is charged to the right account, that the bank balances are where they should be, and all that, which falls really nicely with the accounting manager position because they supervise those cash collections and all of the transaction cycles. So what this ordinance change would do would be shifting the comptroller from the city administrator to the finance director and the treasurer duties from the finance director to the accounting manager.
Very good. Questions from the committee? Alder Gerhart.
I guess my one question is, makes a lot of sense. Is this a typical arrangement in other municipalities of our size where we move it from the city administrator when the staff grows?
So every municipality is different.
Yeah.
So I know Middleton has a very similar structure to what we're moving to. And then I came from Oconomowoc, where actually the city administrator was the treasurer and the finance chair was the comptroller. So it really depends on how municipalities are set up. But if you look at the duties that these positions are assigned, this really seems to make the most sense for our structure.
Okay, additional questions? All right, hearing none. We'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to action item 6B. Do I have a motion to move ordinance 2023-0-08, updating Fitchburg ordinances to replace mayor's signature with comptroller's signature on city drafts, order checks, and transfer orders by amending sections 10-339C and 10-342 of Fitchburg General Code of Ordinances?
I move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval made by Alder Wheeler. And Misty, you will speak to this item as well.
Yep. So this is one of those things that falls under trying to streamline our processes. So right now, our payroll checks and our accounts payable checks are all printed with the signature of the city clerk, the treasurer, and the mayor. Because there tends to be turnover in an elected position, we would like to change that to be 3 permanent staff positions, being the city clerk, the city treasurer, which would now be the accounting manager, and then the comptroller, which would now be me. So simply a way to streamline our processes so we don't have to change the signatories at all of the banks. The mayor's view of things would still be the same. They're still part of the pre-approval process. They would still see all the checks that are presented through Finance Committee and Council. It's just when staff prints their name on the check, it would not be their name any longer. So proposing it for you as a way to streamline.
Okay, very good questions from the committee. All right, hearing none, we'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next action item, 6C. Do I have a motion to move Resolution R-63-23, approving diesel pump dispenser replacement?
I move approval.
Motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. And who was speaking to this evening?
Tim will speak to this.
Tim, you have the floor.
Thank you. The existing diesel pump at the Public Works facility does not function and needs to be replaced. The dispenser and software are outdated. I believe it was installed back in 1992, which is over 31 years ago. This resolution is for Metco to install a new diesel dispenser, card reader, and software upgrade in the amount of $33,474.
Very good. Thank you, Tim. Are there any questions from the committee? Alder Gerhart.
Thank you. Tim, have you been unable to pump diesel then, or is there something, am I misunderstanding with this replacement?
So this diesel pump went down during the snow removal a couple months ago, and we had cards for to go to like Quick Trip or the gas station, or for us to fuel up our snow plows during the snow removal process.
Oh, wow.
I believe Mark has implemented a pump to kind of get us through between now and when this new dispenser would get installed.
Great. Do you expect there to be some significant delay? Because obviously that's incredibly inconvenient for the staff.
Yeah, right now there's not. The fuel or the snow plows have huge, I believe, 100-gallon tanks on them. So in order to keep up with that demand, we just went to the gas station. Since it's not going to snow anymore, it really doesn't impact us too much, but we'd like to get this installed before next snow season, if possible.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none, we'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Hang on here. Just lost my screen here. So one moment, please. All right. Moving on to action item 6D. Do I have a motion to approve resolution R-68-23, Healthy Neighborhood Grant Program Recipient Awards?
Move approval.
All right, Alder Wheeler has motion for approval. And is Scott speaking to this evening, or?
Nope, I will
You
start
are.
it.
Okay.
So technically, under our purchasing policy, these awards are $25,000 or less. However, when this program was originally established, it was established through council, and council wanted to be the ones that actually make the awards, which makes a lot of sense. So the grant applications were received, staff reviewed them, they've worked with the H&I committee to make these recommendations, and you can see all of the applications and such in the packet for you based on the awards that are being recommended.
Very good. Questions from the committee? All right. Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving on to action item 6E. Do I have a motion to move resolution R-69-23, amending the 2023 grants donation fund budget, police equipment?
Move approval.
All right. Motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. And Deputy Chief Leahy, are you?
Good evening. Yes, I will be speaking on this.
All right.
This is the third budget amendment that we've requested utilizing the grant funding provided to us by the Wisconsin Department of Administration. This request is for approximately $32,500 for the purchase of approved equipment from the grant. It's detailed in the packet as far as the items that we're going to be requesting. I'm open to any questions that anybody would have.
All right. No questions from the committee. I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Deputy Chief Leahy. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to interrupt you.
Yes.
For the next one, staff is recommending that we actually postpone this item. The CSM that's required has not been filed yet, so we're not quite ready to act on this.
All right. Very good. That's 6F.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Then I'll ask for a motion for postponement, correct?
If you're open to it, that would be staff's recommendation.
All right. Do I have a motion for postponement of resolution R-71-23 approving dog playground improvements in Crescent Crossing Outlot 11?
I move postponement.
Okay. Alder Wheeler has a motion for postponement until the next
Yep, just till the next meeting.
meeting.
Until the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to action item 6G. Do I have a motion to move Resolution R-73-23, approving installation and purchase of new playground and swing set structures for Clayton Road Park?
I move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. Scott, this one must be for Scott.
Yes,
You have the floor, Scott.
thank you, thank you. What we did is we did receive 4 proposals for the new playground at Clayton Road structure. And typically what we try to do is go through our system and replace 1 playground structure per year. Like I said, this one, we did receive 4 proposals. I do send a survey out to the neighborhood and ask them to vote on all of the different proposals. We had a pretty close ranking. Proposal number 1 had 22 points, and proposal number 4 had 23. But the Park Commission, due to the time of installation, the proposal number 1 was guaranteeing to have the proposal or the playground installed by the end of the year, where proposal number 4 wasn't guaranteed until June of 2024. So the Park Commission is recommending proposal number 1 from Lee Recreation.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Scott. Questions from the committee? All right. Hearing none, we'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to interrupt again, if I may.
Yes.
This next one, staff also recommends we postpone to the next meeting. The agreements that basically make us have the requirement to do the project are being referred out tonight and are not acted upon yet, so we'd like to delay this.
Okay, very good. Do I have a motion to postpone Resolution R-74-23, acceptance of Lacey Road and Seminole Highway intersection and Lacey Road reconstruction bids?
I move postponement until the next meeting.
All right, we have a motion for postponement until the next meeting. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to action item 6I. Do I have a motion to move Resolution R-75-23, approving contract with FGM Architects for the architectural engineering services for the police services facility?
I move approval.
All right, motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. And I will open this up to, I see Chief Morales is online. All right, Chief, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is basically the rationale is seeking an architecture and engineering services in order to proceed with the next step, and that is building the police facility. We did put out an RFP. A request was made. We did publicize that, and we had four architect companies that gave up a proposal. And we came up with FGMA Architects. Extensive work was done by Paul Woodard and other staff from Fitchburg PD and the Public Works facility, and also a representative from Promega. And all hands down individually came up with the same architect.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Is there questions or discussion from the committee? Alder Gerhart.
Thanks. I was wondering if Chief Morales or Alder Wheeler could tell me a little bit about the discussion at the ad hoc committee. I wasn't able to watch it, and I didn't see any minutes posted as of yet. So just curious if you could let us know a little bit about what happened in the meeting. Did it center completely on this?
I'm not aware of any meeting.
Oh, the ad hoc committee hasn't met?
No, we're waiting for this,
Oh, you're waiting for, okay.
for this to come back. Go ahead, Chief.
No, once we decide on moving forward with the architect, once this is approved, we will start our meetings with the group. So there has not been one made, although the committee has been established.
Oh, there is one listed on the agendas for March 22nd that we should probably remove.
So that's not the ad hoc? Are you talking about who reviewed the RFP?
The Police Facility Oversight Committee.
So the Police Facility Oversight Committee ad hoc committee still exists. So it was created not that long ago. There was a separate group of people that reviewed the RFPs to determine which vendor they wanted to recommend.
Got it. Okay. I do have a couple other questions if I.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah, so I'm curious, I was taking a look at the proposal and comparing it to the CIP, and I'm curious, so I guess typically with big construction projects, I don't have that much familiarity, I don't have any familiarity with the buildings yet, but, in the past, with the hub park and with roads, typically we talk a lot about the design in advance, like with the Lacey Road. We had those long conversations about how the bike lanes would be and what the intersection would be prior to bidding it out to the design. And same with the hub park. We had that long discussion about what the skate park, whether or not we'd have the covered shelter and all of that before we bid it out to design. So is there a different process? I'm just curious why we do this first before we have a better sense of what the facility will look like. Is it because it's a building? Is it because I'm just curious why there's a slightly different process in this case? Oh, Chad's coming up.
So when we look at things like a road project, we actually typically, from what I've seen in the short time I've been in this role, and perhaps Misty, if I'm incorrect, you can certainly clarify that. But it typically seems as though we involve an outside consulting firm in design of the road prior to obtaining the public input. Sign Road, as an example, KL Engineering was an active participant in the public information meetings right from the get-go on that. So I think this is actually, from at least what I can tell, mirroring how we typically would do things like a road project where the design firm is selected and approved by the committee or by the council, and then the planning and input process will commence from there.
And do we have to talk about changing in the budget in advance? Because I was taking a look at the CIP, and the CIP has $25 million for the police facility, and the design contract that they put in, it said it would be a minimum of $30 million, from what I read, if I'm not mistaken. So is that something we have to discuss in advance of approving the contract? Because we're basically asking them to design a facility that's above what we have budgeted in this current year budget. So I just don't know how that works.
I believe the plan is through the CIP process to talk the financing through on the police services facility. So I suspect you'll see a request from the police department to modify the funding that's in there, which will allow the council to then discuss it during the CIP approval process.
Yes, go ahead.
But at that point, I mean, I was looking at the schedule. Like, I think we're talking about the CIP in July. Mm-hmm. This process will be pretty, maybe it won't be far enough along. I guess I'd have to take a look at the calendar. But, like, do we hit a point of no return where you designed a facility that's more than the CIP and we haven't had a discussion about the budget? I guess that's my question. It's because July is pretty far away in terms of amount of time that we're going to be taking a look at this project.
Yes, we're about 3 months away from obviously CIP approval, which typically would happen in mid-July, if my recollection on timing is correct. And of course, we would hit a point of no return at some point. I don't know where that is as far as what the timeline is anticipated in this particular contract. I don't know if Chief Morales or Paul Woodard have any idea on when the point of no return might be reached. But I think it's probably safe to say that in the first 3 months of the design process, I don't know if we'll reach that, but we'll certainly be cognizant of that. Excellent. Want to grab that one?
Paul Woodard, Senior Engineer for Public Works Department. The idea is to present to the City Council for approval of the design in September of 23. So that's well after your CIP approval process. So it'll take us a few months to have kickoff meetings. They'll have to go through and do some analysis before we actually start going through the public input process. So we're looking about 23 weeks before we get to the owner, the owner, which is being the city, for approval.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, additional questions, discussion from the committee? All right, hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries. That concludes the action items. Moving on to number 7, announcements. The next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for April 25th, 2023. Item 8, do we have a motion for an adjournment?
I move adjournment.
All right, a motion for adjournment made by Alder Wheeler. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:25 p.m. Thank you.